Excuse me. We have one individual who's registered for public comment this morning. Good morning, Lisa Governale. Please unmute your microphone, introduce yourself, and then begin.
Hello. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Yes, I'm Lisa Governale. I'm here today to comment and advocate for my final appeal to my unemployment hearing. This has been going on well over a year, and this is the final attempt to see if this can be approved. I will tell you that I did suffer from a hostile work environment, and I had good cause to leave. According to a reasonable person standard, anyone would have done that in my situation. I was a victim of a workplace in which I was made to feel uncomfortable, scared, and intimidated and harassed. It was offensive and unwelcome conduct of which I tried to seek resolution. It was a behavior displayed by my supervisor of which my employer allowed to continue. I am not required by law to endure a hostile work environment. When an employer fails to take action to remedy the situation, the psychological abuse that was suffered over time that a reasonable person would find unsuitable to perform regular duties and tasks is a premise upon which, at the very least, unemployment benefits should be granted. I also would like to note that I suffered from verbal abuse, long hours of work, trying to meet expectations, being treated differently than other coworkers, lack of sleep, difficulty concentrating, focusing, and anxiety. It is a cumulative effect of which I decided to resign, and not necessarily one incident, which seems to be the focus of the last hearings. I'd also like to point out that during my time at Rice University, I had the privilege of building really positive relationships with numerous campus resources, professors, students, alumni, and coworkers. These connections were a testament to my dedication to the university community and its mission. It is disheartening that such a positive and fulfilling experience would be overshadowed by a hostile work environment that continued to escalate. I also want to point out that I did love my job at Rice. The last thing I wanted to do was resign. I was committed to making the situation work, but I realized that it was not possible. And I would also like to point out that in the January appeal, my employer did not show up for that. And so to me, that means that they weren't contesting the appeal. I do want to thank you for the opportunity to provide this public comment today. I really do appreciate that opportunity, and I hope that you'll make a good decision in my favor today. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's the last of our comments today.
Thank you, Ms. Patricio. All right. On agenda item 3, no cases to reconsider. Is that correct?
Correct. No cases.
Moving on to tax liability cases under agenda item 4, we have one case on docket 30, no cases on docket 31.
Good morning. Good morning. For the record, Hugh Daniel, Special Program Appeals. That is correct, Chairman Daniel. There are no tax liability cases. Oh, sorry. There is one tax liability case on docket 30 and no tax liability cases on docket 31. The case number on docket 30 is TD-24-061-1224. Commissioner Esparza.
Agree with the recommendation.
Commissioner Trevino.
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Chairman Daniel.
Agree in part with staff recommendation. The marketing production workers are not in employment. We're here to develop the record on 1, the furniture specifiers and project managers' continuing relationship with the firm, and 2, the project manager role, and 3, to determine if the furniture specifiers offer their services to the public.
We do have 2 votes to agree with the recommendation at this time.
Short form dissent.
Short form dissent. Thank you. That concludes the tax liability cases for this docket. These dockets.
Thank you. No fair housing cases on agenda item 5. No child labor cases on agenda item 6. Under agenda item 7, we have no wage claim cases on either dockets 30 or 31 pulled for additional discussion.
That is correct. No cases pulled for additional discussion, but you should have received the wage claim short form dissent lists for dockets 30 and 31.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on dockets 30 and 31.
I second the motion except for those cases which I am dissenting as reflected on wage claim short form dissent list for docket 30 and 31.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting, is reflected in wage claim short form dissent lists for dockets 30 and 31.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. Let's move then to agenda item 8, consideration of unemployment insurance cases. Please proceed when you're ready.
This is for docket 30.
Case number 3362306, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant's petition to reopen should be deemed timely and that the claimant had good cause for failure to appear at the prior hearings. Regarding the timeliness of the complainant's AT appeal, timeliness sanctions should not apply because TWC did not issue the determinations in this case until January of 2022, which was more than 6 months after the PUA program ended in Texas, and the claimant stopped filing payment requests. Furthermore, the determination held that the claimant failed to provide proof of employment to justify her PUA claim. However, prior to the proof of employment notice being sent, the claimant had already submitted proof of her employment for 2019 and 2020 on 9/8 of 2020. The claimant then submitted additional proof of employment documentation on 1/3 of 22, prior to the issuance of the determination. Since the commission records show that the claimant had already submitted the required proof of employment to the TWC prior to any of the issues in this case, she was entitled to the PUA benefits that she received and should not be unjustly punished due to the procedural errors and delays that occurred after a PUA claim ended. Modify the AT, timely petition to reopen AT1 and AT2. Claimant had good cause for AT1 and AT2. Timely claimant appeal. PUA eligible beginning 12/27 of 20. No overpayment. Void waiver.
The AT decision is supportable. Although the claimant had good cause for missing the first 2 hearings and her reopening request can be considered timely, her original appeal was late without any valid exception to the appeal deadline. On the merits of the underlying PUA issue, the evidence shows that she did not send in the proof of employment documents in a timely manner, as requested under federal law that extended PUA benefits at the end of 2020. Since the resulting overpayment was due to a reason under the claimant's control, she is ineligible for waiver of the overpayment. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. Claimant's reopening requests were timely, and she had good cause for missing the first 2 hearings. Late appeal, ineligible for PUA benefits starting December 27th of 2020. Overpayment of $5,382. Waiver of the overpayment is not granted.
Good cause for AT2 and AT1. Timely petition to reopen AT2 and AT1. Timely appeal resubmit.
Ma'am, I'll agree with the chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We will resubmit the case.
Case number 3394191, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision should be modified. While I agree that the claimant had good cause for missing AT1, the PUA ineligibility and overpayment should be reversed. The notice to provide proof of employment was not sent to the claimant until over a year after his PUA claim had expired. The claimant had no reason to be regularly checking his inbox for correspondence from the TWC. And when he eventually saw the notice, he believed that he had already proven his self-employment in the prior case, which held him eligible for PUA benefits based on his self-employment being impacted by a COVID pandemic. The claimant also sent in proof of his federal employer identification number for his LLC. Therefore, the claimant should not be held ineligible for PUA benefits that he was properly awarded. Modify the AT. Claimant had good cause for AT1, PUA eligible from 12/27 of 20, no overpayment, void waiver. In the alternative, this case should be reheard for the claimant to provide further proof of his self-employment prior to the pandemic.
The AT decision is supportable. The claimant had good cause to miss the first hearing. However, he was ineligible for continued PUA benefits because he failed to submit the required proof of employment within the time frame allowed. Although what he submitted would have been acceptable, he waited too long, almost 1 year, to send it in. The claimant received the benefits in question, which created an overpayment. The overpayment was attributed to the claimant. Since the failure to meet the deadline resulted in the claimant's inaction, since the overpayment was the fault of the claimant, he is ineligible for a waiver of the overpayment. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant had good cause to miss the first hearing, ineligible for PUA beginning December 27th of 2020, overpayment of $13,546, deny the waiver of the overpayment.
Good cause, claimant eligible for PUA benefits, no overpayment, void waiver.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3421605, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision should be reversed. The determinations at issue in this case involve a PEUC claim dated 7/19 of 20. And the underlying earnings adjustment that led to the determination was issued on 8/25 of 20. Yet the determinations were not issued until 12/3 of 21. Additionally, after the claimant had filed her appeal, the commission delayed processing the appeal for 10 months before scheduling the claimant's hearing. The commission's delay in issuing the initial determination, then further delay in the scheduling of the hearing, constituted commission misinformation, and the claimant's petition to reopen should be deemed timely. The claimant should be granted good cause for a failure to appear at AT1, and the claimant's AT appeal should also be deemed timely. Regarding the FPUC overpayment at issue in this case, commission records establish that the claimant earned less than 125% of her WBA during the weeks in question, and therefore she was entitled to the FPUC benefits that she received. Reverse the AT, timely petition to reopen. Claimant established good cause for AT1. Timely claimant appeal. No overpayment. Void waiver.
Although the AT decision in this case would need modification in any event due to the need to hold the claimant's Rule 16 request timely, it appears that a final decision in this case may need to be held pending the outcome of two pending appeals by the claimant in cases 395-4057 and 395-4065, neither of which is currently scheduled for hearing. Those two appeals appear to involve issues related to the basis for the determinations to which the claimant originally filed the late appeals in this case. However, the AT has not yet ruled on the appeal in the underlying earnings adjustment case. Accordingly, we should hold the appeal pending the decisions of the appeals 395-4057 and 395-4065.
Good cause, timely petition to reopen, timely appeal, rehear, and make this a companion case with the underlying earnings adjustment case number 395-4057.
All right, we have majority vote on the timeliness of the petition to reopen on good cause and timeliness of the appeal to the appeal tribunal. We also have a majority vote to rehear the case and hold pending one of the two companions. Just to clarify for the record, Chairman Daniel, do you want to hold pending only one or both of the companions?
I don't know. Hold on. I only know about one of them.
Yes, sir.
We'll hold it for both of them as long as they're all reheard together.
Yes, sir.
All
We
right.
will do so. And just to clarify, the two that we're holding pending are at the AT level and won't be subject to a higher authority rehearing. We'll be holding pending the results of the AT decision in the lower authority.
Mhm. That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Case number 3486673, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. After the claimant filed her appeal, the commission delayed scheduling the claimant's first hearing for 15 months. the claimant participated in the first hearing, which was a procedural hearing, in March of 2023. Then the commission delayed again in scheduling the continuance, which was not held until October of 2023. The claimant testified that at the time of this continuance, she was dealing with both a personal medical issue and was in the hospital with her sister, who passed away 2 days after the hearing. And so she was unable to participate in that hearing. Considering both the commission's failure to timely schedule the claimant's hearing and the claimant's personal issues, which reasonably prevented her from participating in the hearing, the claimant has established good cause for her failure to appear at AT1. Reverse the AT, claimant established a good cause for AT1, resubmit.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant's testimony on the timeline of events that caused her to miss the AT hearing was not consistent with what she provided in her appeal. As such, the claimant's testimony did not establish good cause for non-appearance. As to timeliness, the claimant provided a good cause reason for not appealing on time. There are no good cause exceptions to the timeliness rules. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for a non-appearance. Untimely claimant appeal, overpayment, deny waiver.
Good cause, timely appeal, resubmit.
We will resubmit the case.
Case number 3655742, Commissioner Esparza.
We should modify the AT decision. The claimant was discharged for his unprofessional, rude, and dismissive behavior toward coworkers after prior warnings. The claimant's conduct was so egregious that several coworkers threatened to quit. The employer presented numerous witnesses who described the claimant's repeated pattern of inappropriate behavior. Because the employer met its burden of proving the claimant mismanaged his position of employment, the AT's credibility assessment and finding of misconduct are both fully supportable. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate response issue.
The AT decision is not supportable. Although the employer alleged that the claimant was discharged for unprofessional interactions with other employees, the employer could not cite a specific incident that led to the discharge. Additionally, while the employer alleged that the claimant had recent warnings for rudeness, the claimant denied this, and the employer did not provide any evidence of any recent warnings. Rather, the evidence suggests that the employer was using the claimant to relay bad news to drivers and then bear the brunt of the driver's negative responses. Therefore, the employer did not establish that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response.
Misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate employer response.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3703225, Commissioner Esparza.
We should reverse the AT decision. The claimant was discharged for not meeting job expectations. Although the employer offered ongoing support, resources, and targeted training to improve the claimant's performance, the claimant refused to attend the offered trainings and dismissed the employer's offer for additional help. Since the claimant was provided constant assistance by the employer for continued success, her failure to utilize the employer's resources constituted misconduct connected with the work. As such, we should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision is correct. The employer discharged the claimant due to her inability to meet her monthly performance metrics. The claimant performed her work to the best of her ability despite the employer's alleged lack of guidance and unreasonable standards. Since the employer failed to provide any direct evidence that the claimant had ever demonstrated the ability to meet the employer's performance standards, the claimant was discharged for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3723189, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant quit her job after a long-term patient passed away. The employer continued sending the claimant assignments, which were turned down. The claimant did not have a substantial change in her hiring agreement due to a reduction in work hours. The claimant knew that full-time work would likely require multiple assignments, as single full-time clients' cases were not the norm for this employer. Under the home health precedent, one party must clearly communicate their desire to end the employment. Since there was continued work available and the claimant declined new assignments, the separation constituted voluntary quit without good cause connected with the work. We should therefore reverse the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The decision is correct. The claimant's last assignment ended after her client passed away. The claimant had worked full-time hours, 5 days a week. The employer then offered the claimant 2 additional assignments. However, the work offered to the claimant was for part-time hours, with one assignment being only for 2 hours a day, and the other assignment being over 30 miles away and only offering 16 hours a week. Therefore, since the claimant's hiring agreement would have been significantly changed due to the substantial reduction in hours, along with the distance to one of the part-time assignments, the claimant had good cause connected with the work for turning down these assignments. Affirm the AT, no voluntary leaving, chargeback.
No voluntary leaving, chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3724083, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision is not correct. The claimant was discharged for allegedly failing to follow a directive regarding a job task assignment to her. However, the claimant provided credible firsthand testimony denying the employer's allegation that she refused to follow the directive given to her and testified that she was just asking for clarification because the instructions raised potential ethical concerns, which could have jeopardized her accounting license before completing the assigned task. Since the claimant was merely asking for clarification on whether complying with an assigned job task was ethical, and since she denied refusing the employer's request, the claimant was discharged for reasons other than misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
The AT decision should be affirmed. Claimant was fired for failing to follow instructions. While the claimant contends that she had reservations about the instructions, she admitted that the employer advised her she was covered by making her concerns known. Moreover, the claimant's evidence was inconsistent. Accordingly, the claimant's action constituted misconduct connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
No misconduct, chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3746470, Commissioner Esparza.
We should affirm the AT decision. Claimant testified that she quit effective immediately due to health issues. However, she did not take steps to protect her job. She failed to consult with a doctor, address her health concerns with HR, or request a leave of absence before resigning. Thus, because the claimant did not provide the employer with reasonable opportunity to address her concerns and was not advised to quit for health reasons, she quit without good cause connected with the work. Affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
The decision should be modified. The claimant resigned for health reasons due to a medically verifiable illness. She quit due to the stressful working conditions directly related to her job, which caused her severe health problems. The claimant provided medical documentation establishing that her work environment was the direct cause of her health issues, causing her to resign. Since the claimant's separation was due to her medically verified illness, she should be qualified for benefits, and the employer's account should be protected from chargeback. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI.
Voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3777577, Commissioner Esparza.
The commission should rehear this case. The claimant was terminated for using excessive force when restraining a patient. Despite the claimant's contention that he was acting in self-defense, multiple witnesses for the employer explained that the claimant used aggressive language, excessive force, and was not in compliance with the employer's physical restraint policy. Although a video of the final incident was available, it was not made accessible to the commission for review. Since reviewing the video is necessary to understand the circumstances surrounding the final incident, we should rehear this case to gather testimony and to review the employer's video evidence. Rehear.
The AT decision is not supportable. The employer discharged the complainant after an incident where the claimant acted in self-defense while dealing with an aggressive patient. who was having a psychotic episode. While the employer alleged that the claimant acted improperly in handling the patient, they did not provide any firsthand evidence of the incident. The claimant provided credible firsthand testimony that he attempted to defuse the situation, tried to avoid anyone being harmed, and took appropriate actions to help restrain the patient. Additionally, no one was injured during this incident. Therefore, the employer did not establish that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, void adequate response.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case. That was the last case pulled for additional discussion. On docket 30, you should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 30.
I'll move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 30.
I second the motion except for those cases which I am dissenting as reflected on UI short form dissent list for docket 30.
I concur with the chair's motion, except for the cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 30.
The motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you. Proceeding to docket 31.
Case number 3659912, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision is not supportable. We have already voted to deem the claimant's CA appeal timely. Regarding the underlying issues, this case involves a continued claim related to the claimant working as a marketplace contractor in self-employment. As such, there was no separation from employment, and the continued claim should be voided. Deem the CA appeal timely, set aside the AT decision, void the continued claim.
We should affirm the AT decision. Regarding the timeliness issue, we voted on a prior docket that the claimant's appeal was timely. Concerning the job separation, the claimant stopped working after 3 days because he believed he could not earn more than 125% of his weekly benefit amount while receiving unemployment benefits. Since this was a personal reason for quitting, the claimant quit without good cause connected with the work. Accordingly, we should find the claimant's commission appeal timely and affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving overpayment.
Set aside the AT, deem commission appeal timely, void the continued claim, no overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3689828, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision should be reversed. The only issue in this case is whether the employer should be billed for benefits. The claimant was terminated for excessive absenteeism after a prior warning. While the employer's disciplinary process called for a verbal warning, the strict adherence to every step of the disciplinary process should not be necessarily be dispositive as to whether the claimant engaged in misconduct connected with the work. Generally, misconduct connected with work is tied to whether the claimant knew or should have known that the final incident would have led to a discharge. In the case in hand, the claimant received a warning for an unexcused absence, which notified him that future incidents could lead to discharge. Nonetheless, the final incident consisted of the claimant incurring another unexcused absence. In sum, the claimant was at fault for the job separation and knew that the fault could lead to his termination. Such circumstances should not result in the employer being billed. We should therefore reverse the AT decision, reimbursing employer not billed.
The decision is correct. The employer alleged that the claimant was given a written warning for excessive absences and then suspended. Next, the employer gave the complainant the option to resign in lieu of termination. Although the claimant chose to resign, the employer initiated the separation, and the evidence suggests that the employer failed to follow its own progressive disciplinary policy by not providing the claimant with a verbal warning before giving him the ultimatum to resign or be fired. Therefore, the claimant was discharged for reasons other than misconduct. Affirm the AT, bill reimbursing employer.
Bill reimbursing employer.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3696980, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision should be modified. Although the claimant admittedly misreported her earnings from a part-time job when filing payment requests, the complainant mistakenly believed she only needed to report her net earnings rather than her gross earnings. Additionally, she didn't have immediate access to her pay records to know what exactly she earned for the week when she reported her earnings to the commission. Furthermore, the earnings that the claimant reported were not that far off from her actual earnings that they were, and for several weeks, she overreported earnings. While the claimant's benefits amounts clearly should be adjusted to reflect her actual earnings, she did not have a willful intent to misrepresent her earnings to obtain benefits that she was not entitled to. Therefore, the fraud forfeiture provision should not be applied to her claim. Modify the AT, no fraud, recalculate overpayment based on earnings adjustment.
The AT decision is supportable. The claimant's testimony and TWC records show that she failed to report all work and earnings on 28 claim certifications for her most recent claim. Not only does the claimant have a master's degree and substantial work experience at professional executive levels, she also filed 2 prior UI claims and experienced earning adjustments with the claim in 2017 and reported earnings for the claim in 2020. Thus, she was fully aware in 2023 of the requirement to fully report work and earnings while filing for UI benefits. The evidence is sufficient to show claim fraud in connection with the 2023 claim. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant committed claim fraud, overpayment of $14,076.
No fraud forfeiture, no fraud overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. And just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, no fraud overpayment, but recalculate
That's
for
correct,
earnings. Thank you, sir.
Case number 3705-498, Commissioner Trevino.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant worked for the employer on a long-term assignment for a year and a half. When the claimant learned the assignment was ending, she was not given any instructions to report to the employer for further assignments, and no further work was offered to her. While the employer had a reporting policy, the claimant only electronically signed this several weeks before her start date, and she was never given a copy of the policy. Additionally, there is dispute regarding whether the claimant reported for further assignments and whether any suitable assignments were available at the time of her last assignment ended. Therefore, the evidence shows that the claimant's separation occurred when her long-term assignment ended, and she was neither given any instructions on how to request another assignment nor offered another assignment. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback. In the alternative, this case should be reheard in order to further develop the record on what the claimant was told at the completion of her assignment, whether any suitable assignments were available at the time of her assignment ended, and to ask about the claimant's fact-finding statements, whether she stated that she reported for a reassignment on the following business day, but was told there were no jobs at that time.
We should modify the AT decision. The claimant admitted she did not read the policies provided to her at the time of hire. Since she did not comply with the employer's reporting requirements, she's considered to have quit without good cause connected with work. Modify the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, sever the adequate response issue.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 3716591, Commissioner Esparza.
We should affirm the AT decision. Under our timeliness rules, the appeal date for an appeal submitted electronically shall be the date and time the appeal is received by the agency. Here, the claimant's appeal was received 18 minutes past midnight on the day after the deadline. Despite receiving the determination 2 days after it was mailed, the claimant delayed filing her appeal because of personal reasons. The claimant alleged she was trying to submit her online appeal before the deadline expired, but encountered technical issues. Assuming this to be true, she did not specify what these issues were, nor did she allege that the technical issues originated from TWC. Because the claimant delayed almost 2 weeks in her filing her appeal, failed to show that TWC was responsible for any technical issues she may have encountered, and there is no good cause exception to the timeliness rules, the claimant's appeal is not timely. Thus, we have no jurisdiction to consider the underlying merits. Affirm the AT decision. Late claimant appeal, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant has credibly and consistently provided that she attempted to submit her appeal online prior to the appeal deadline, but that her appeal would not send due to technical problems that she until she edited the appeal, which was most likely due to character limit error. By the time that she was able to edit the appeal down and get it to submit, it was only 18 minutes late. Therefore, the claimant appeal should be deemed timely and the case remanded back to the AT so that testimony on the merits of the job separation can be taken. Reverse the AT, timely claimant appeal, remand.
Timely appeal, remand for merits testimony, memo to investigatability.
Long form dissent, please.
I have your long form dissent, and we will send the memo and remand the case.
Case number 3716920, Commissioner Esparza.
We should reverse the AT decision. The claimant was terminated for stealing customer tools on the employer's premises. Despite the claimant's denial, his claim of non-culpability is neither credible nor persuasive. The employer testified that he and the claimant were the only individuals with access to the customer's vehicle. Furthermore, the employer presented evidence that the stolen tools were later discovered concealed under the claimant's clothing in a back room at the employer's work location. Finally, the claimant's credibility is further questioned due to a previous incident involving a theft of personal items from a customer's vehicle. Since preponderance of the evidence demonstrates that the claimant engaged in theft on the company premises, his actions constituted misconduct connected with work. As such, we should reverse the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision is correct. The claimant was accused of stealing from a customer's vehicle, but the employer only provided secondhand hearsay testimony and circumstantial evidence. The claimant has consistently denied the allegations under oath and pointed to a possibility that another employee could have accessed the vehicle while he stepped away, which the employer did not discredit. Therefore, the employer was unable to meet its burden of proving that the claimant was guilty of misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3722354, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. The employer discharged the claimant, a truck driver, due to his involvement in a traffic collision. The employer alleged that the claimant failed to properly slow down in order to avoid the accident. However, the employer did not provide any direct evidence to support its allegations, and the claimant provided credible firsthand testimony that he was driving safely and at an appropriate speed given the weather and slippery road conditions, but that when he had to brake for another accident on the road, the conditions made his collision unavoidable. The complainant had no prior accidents in his 12 years on the job. Therefore, since the evidence indicates that the claimant was driving with appropriate caution, but the road conditions made the accident unavoidable, the claimant was discharged for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant violated company policy by not following safety precautions while driving in inclement weather. Although the claimant argues that the accident was not intentional, negligence resulting in damage to company property and injury to others constitutes misconduct connected with work. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
Misconduct, no chargeback.
Short form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3733609, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision should be modified. Claimant's job separation was directly linked to her health concerns as evidenced by her testimony and supporting medical documentation. Given the connection between the claimant's medically verifiable illness and the circumstances surrounding the job separation, claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account should be protected from chargeback. As such, we should modify the AT decision. No voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI.
Ma'am, I can agree with Commissioner Esparza since the claimant's separation was directly related to her medically verified illness. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI.
No voluntary leaving, no chargeback, MVI.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision. And that was the last UI case pulled for additional discussion on docket 31. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 31.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 31.
I second the motion except for those cases which I am dissenting, as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 31.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases of which I am dissenting as reflected in UI short form dissent list for docket 31.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you.
No, thank you. We'll take a short recess. All right, this is agenda item 9, fiscal year 26, ES and SNAP supplemental allocations.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Chris Nelson, Chief Financial Officer. This morning you have before you the fiscal year 2026 SNAP and Employment Service allocations in accordance with Chapter 800 of the TWC rules regarding allocations. The SNAP allocation is in the amount of $11,883,508 and includes a small board distribution of $30,515. And the Employment Services allocation is in the amount of $27,439,218 and includes small board distribution of $71,709. That concludes my remarks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Comments or questions?
No, Chairman.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we adopt the fiscal year 2026 Employment Services and Supplemental Nutrition Assistant Program allocations as recommended today by staff.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. The motion carries. This is agenda item 10, RESEA supplemental distribution.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, I am Suzette Robinson, Workforce Development Division. For fiscal year 2024, TWC received an RESEA performance outcome payment in the amount of $2,880,907. In the commission meeting on July 9th, 2025, the commission approved distributing a portion of this year's outcome payment as performance incentives. New this year, USDOL requires that a portion of the state's outcome payment be used to serve additional RESEA customers. Staff has developed a discussion paper for your consideration that distributes the remaining balance of the performance outcome payment and a portion of prior year grant funds as supplemental funding for boards that are experiencing increases in their profile pool and need to either cost allocate or hire additional staff to provide RESEA services to those additional customers. Staff recommends amending the board contract year 2025 contracts to distribute $1,382,513 to boards for the provision of services to additional customers in their profile pool as described in the discussion paper.
Comments or questions?
None here.
No, Chairman.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the fiscal year 2024 reemployment services and eligibility assessment performance outcome payment and supplemental allocation as described in the discussion paper and recommended today by staff.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. The motion carries. It's agenda item 11, TWC ethics policy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Cerna. My name is Deborah Simpson. I'm an Assistant General Counsel with TWC. I'm coming to you today to bring forth the TWC ethics policy readoption for your review and consideration. The Commission last readopted the ethics policy on July 30th, 2024. After readoption, Governor Abbott issued an executive order that, among other things, requires state agencies to revise their ethics policies to include certain provisions regarding foreign adversaries. Because the executive order required revisions to the ethics policy, we made some additional improvements to the policy. Most of the revisions are non-substantive and are made to improve clarity, to ensure the accuracy of links within the document to relevant policies, procedures, and forms, and external sources, and to remove references to the ethics advisor, which is a now defunct position. We've also added a placeholder for inserting a link to an ethics policy on the use of TWC data and artificial intelligence, which is currently in process. And once that policy is finalized and approved, we will insert a link to the document in the ethics policy. Only 7 edits are substantive. The first four are found in section 1.10.2. First one of those is subsection 2 has been revised to expressly prohibit access to TWC systems for non-TWC purposes or for purposes outside the scope of the employee's employment. Subsection 5 has been revised to expressly prohibit employees from participating or engaging in fraud, theft, waste, abuse, or corruption. And the revised language further states that employees who violate section 1.19 of the TWC Personnel Manual also violate this section of the ethics policy. Subsections 7 and 8 have been revised to remove the phrase "for compensation." These changes make clear that the prohibitions in subsections 7 and 8 apply to all self-employment activities, regardless of whether the employee receives compensation. And that last revision to section 1.10.2, subsection 11 has been revised to add a sentence that states violations of subsection 11 would include employees misrepresenting their role within TWC. To comply with the executive order, we revised section 1.11.1 to expand the definition of prohibited sources to include entities on the U.S. Department of Commerce's foreign adversaries list, and to provide a reporting mechanism for employees who are approached by anyone representing a country on the foreign adversaries list offering a gift, or who become aware of any violations of the policy regarding prohibited gifts from foreign adversaries. Section 1.12.1 has been revised to remove ambiguity and to clarify circumstances when employees must submit a P44 form to request approval of outside activities. Most of the changes are reflected in subsection 3, which requires employees to submit a P44 form for approval of any outside employment or dual employment, any outside activity that could be perceived to be within the purview of or overlaps with TWC's operations, or any outside activity that involves a leadership position, even if that position is unpaid. The revised language provides additional guidance that a leadership position includes, but is not limited to, positions where a TWC employee is an officer, partner, or director of an organization or entity, or a member or manager of a limited liability company, even if the role is on a voluntary basis. The final substantive change was made to comply with the executive order. New section 1.15.3 prohibits travel to, for professional purposes, a country on the foreign adversaries list, and provides a reporting mechanism for employees who are approached by anyone representing a country on the foreign adversaries list offering travel, or who become aware of any violations of the policy regarding prohibited travel. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the revisions to the ethics policy.
None here.
No
Thank you.
questions.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the readoption of the Texas Workforce Commission ethics policy as presented today by staff.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. The motion carries. This is agenda item 12, board nominations.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Serna. For the record, Patricia Martinez, Workforce Development Division. Today, for your consideration, we have workforce board nominations for Workforce Solutions, Brazos Valley, Cameron County, Capital Area, Concho Valley, Deep East Texas, and Southeast Texas. Staff recommends approval on the presented nominees, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Comments or questions?
None here.
No, Chairman.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the local workforce development board member nominees presented today for the following: Workforce Solutions, Brazos Valley, Cameron County, Capital Area, Concho Valley, Deep East Texas, and Southeast Texas.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. The motion carries.
Thank you.
An executive director's report.
No report other than to say I will be out of the office on personal leave the first 2 weeks in August. Randy Townsend, our deputy, will be in charge, or if he's not around, I'm sure he'll leave someone competent in charge like Chris Nelson
So go to Randy and Chris for everything.
or anybody else.
Do you
that
have cell phone service where you go?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh,
Always do for y'all. Anyway, that's all I have.
thanks, sir. Is there any other order of business come before the commission?
Nothing here.
No, Chairman.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move to adjourn.
I second.
The vote is unanimous and we are adjourned.